When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, hello YouTube. Welcome back to the Grease Comedy channel. Today we're going to be continuing on our Halloween week, and we're going to be talking about the others in today's video. And more specifically, what do they want, right? Like, I talked about this on stream a little bit on Monday, but it's very unclear as to what George has intended for the others. Are they going to be something like in the show where they were really just a mindless zombie group? I don't really see that for the story, but that's a possibility. What do they want? Do they want to repopulate themselves? Is that why they take all of these babies from Crasters? Are they wanting to be worshipped, kind of like as gods or deities, I guess? But yeah, we're going to talk about all those things and more. And yeah, so before we get into the video, if you guys would like to learn more about A Song of Ice and Fire, or specifically you just enjoy this type of content, so consider subscribing, and let's get into the video. So the first kind of route I want to take here is we have to identify if the others themselves are kind of this higher being. How intelligent are they, right? Are they just this mindless group, I guess, or race? And the quickest answer to that is established within really the first chapter of the story. They, one, can communicate with each other, and also they have emotions, right? They're able to have these, I guess, humanistic characteristics. So there's that part of it, right? Because if we remember, Waymar Royce, when he is fighting the others, he's actively being mocked by them, right? They're almost laughing, this piercing, cold laughter at him. But they also seem to communicate with each other. So again, this would imply that they are definitely a higher, species, as they are able to do all these things. Now, the other thing to point out here is, why did they kill the Night's Watchmen? Like, why do they kill all of these people? What is their goal with doing that? Is it some human motivations that we're going to be able to connect with, making the others more of a human and something we can relate to? That's very possible, right? So let's look at other instances we have with the others and what we can maybe connect them with. So again, let's go to Crasters, because he's really the closest that we actually get to finding any real reason within the others. Now, what we could see here is that they don't really have any way of repopulating. That is something that makes a lot of sense in my opinion. So we see that Craster consistently gives these babies to the others, and specifically the males. Now, I don't know if that is something that it needs to be done, or it's more just Craster wants to keep the women so that he can keep, again, repopulating his own weird, messed up family and then giving more children to the others. But we also know that he also, like, sacrifices animals to them. So they not only, like, take these children, but they also take the animals as well, which is interesting. Again, we don't know if these others eat or anything of that nature. So it'd be interesting to understand why they're taking also these animals. Maybe they are sacrificing them. Maybe they're doing some sort of blood magic type scenario. But it's something that I think is very important to understand, is that it doesn't seem like there's any female White Walkers, or that they themselves are not able to reproduce, which is something that is very interesting given that Craster, again, only gives the males. So this is also going to tie into something that we don't know fully exactly what happened, but there was a Night's King, which again is not the Night King from the show, so just get that out of your head, but it was a Lord Commander of the Wall, and he is apparently said to have been basically sleeping with a female White Walker, and they were basically creating like half mutant kids, more or less, where they're like half human, half white. And so this could make a lot of sense, as this was some sort of peace offering. This was some sort of agreement between the two sides. And given what we know of the whites, again, as they spare Craster, which makes a lot of sense, given that it is a constant source of sacrifices, of resources that the others apparently need. And if they kill Craster, that supply ends. So given that this deal goes down with the others and the humans, or at least the Watch anyway, it seems like there were sacrifices being taken out, right, and given to the others, similar to what Craster's doing. But could this been of the way could have been maybe the last female that the others had, and maybe even the others themselves cannot reproduce themselves, so that is why they looked to the humans being able to, again, extend their species and continue to grow as a society. That's very plausible, and I think that's a very human motivation, right? Being able to continue as a society, as a civilization, continuing to have more of your own race, right? If the human race is dying out, you're going to want to find a way to, revert that. And so there is that point of it that I think is very interesting. There's also a lot of other things that connect with John specifically that become very interesting. We know that, again, John is someone that's very young, very similar to the Night's King. And also, again, the Night's King was a Stark. So very interesting the connections here we see with John specifically, as he is also part Stark, regardless of any of the theories you believe on John's parentage. And we also kind of come to this idea that the Starks and the others have a lot of similarities. One being that the Starks seem very used to the cold. They seem almost like they have some sort of, maybe not immunity to the cold, but they are able to adapt to the cold much better than like normal men. Something similar that we see with the Targaryens when it comes to their dragons, right? They are not immune to like fire, for instance, but they are, able to be a little bit more heat resistant than the average person. And so we come to this idea of how connected they are. Is there some situation where the Starks and the others are actually like interbreeding to a degree, right? Like the others' own bloodline flows through John. Now that is very interesting as well, because are the others trying to communicate with John? Are they trying to kill John, right? Like, did they mistake Waymar for being like Benjen, right? Because if this is true and that the Starks are connected with the others, was Benjen the actual target, not Waymar? Or was Waymar the target to lure out Benjen? Again, we have a lot of weird details surrounding if Benjen's dead or if he's a prisoner right now. And if Benjen is like a prisoner right now, the others, why? There's so many questions and just weird ties that we have and similarities with the Starks and the others. Even the crypts themselves, if you think about the crypts under Winterfell, they're always described as being very cold. And so that kind of, the vibe it gives seems almost like the way the others are described, where it's just an unnatural cold. And we also notice that when any other characters that go down that are not Starks, it feels very foreign. They feel like they're being watched. They feel as though they're out of their element. I just got done, doing my reread for Ned 11 in a Game of Thrones, and something that's noted is how he feels like the throne room is very foreign. Like it's still the Targaryens in their actual throne, because again, everything was made by the Targaryens. It really feels like how when Theon goes down in these crypts, it's kind of how he feels as a whole. And so it makes you like wonder, is like there's some sort of magic by the others still in here. And the swords that are kind of guarding these spirits, it all seems very eerie. And again, almost seems connected to this idea of the others that we just don't know. We have so many questions because of the limited amount of time that we see with the others. But there's so many things that are left open-ended by George that it almost feels like it has to be true. Could the others be tied with the Children of the Forest in some way or another? We know that, again, the show made up their own thing with the Children of the Forest actively creating the others, but that's not really confirmed or even, alluded to really in the books yet. So what's the relationship there? We have two old, it seems, forces in the north that are occupying this space of the Children of the Forest and the others. Is this more about also the others maybe wanting more land, wanting to grow? And then there's another thing that I think becomes very interesting. This wall. It's a wall of ice. And we know that the others control some of the weather elements, whether making it really cold and things of that nature. It heavily implies to me that how would this magical wall that seems unheard of, that man made this, it seems like the others had to have had some helping with this, or at least maybe they almost made it, or at least had the foundations for this being made, which then adds a whole nother question. Why would the others, if they help make this wall at all, make it? There's so many questions that just don't really make sense. What was this wall actually put up in a reverse, right? It's not to keep the others from coming south, but more to keep all of these humans from wandering north into the homes of the others. There's just so many questions that seem to be lingering on the series. And is this something that George is struggling with writing in Winds of Winter? Possibly, because of how open-ended, how mysterious this is. And to a degree, you'd almost think it'd be easier to write because of how there really is no parameters that George is limited to, because he hasn't really established much with this force. And we know that given the story, this is probably going to be the end game boss for our characters. What happened the first time? When we look at the Long Night, doesn't really seem logical that our forces of good, or the forces of the humans, were actually able to defeat the others. That doesn't really seem plausible given what we know about them, having this camouflage armor and ice spiders and all of it. Just seems highly unlikely that they defeated them, given that they can raise the dead. And they didn't kill all of them because, again, the others are still present in the story now. So what stopped them the first time? And that's the question that's been left unanswered because it was so long ago. But give me your guys' best theory about what you think is up with the others. Again, we don't have a lot to go off of, but it's fascinating to speculate on. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching. I hope you are enjoying. I hope you all are enjoying Halloween week. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.